Once a year, every December, Ashley Shawn, along with friends and family, gathers at the place where Bryant died. They walk down to the section of the river where he disappeared in 2003. They say a few words, light a barbecue, and have a few drinks, because that's exactly what Brett would have wanted. The survivors who were there that day rarely speak about what happened that Sunday afternoon, and about the horror that followed. After their son's death, his parents divorced and eventually moved away from the city. It's late spring, moving into early summer in Australia. Locals refer to this period as the wet season, a time marked by tropical cyclones, monsoon rains, and suffocating humidity. Southwest of the city of Darwin lies a river called the Finnis River. During this season, heavy rains can cause the river to receive in just a few days the amount of water it would normally take an entire month to accumulate. The red earth turns into thick mud. Trees along the riverbanks become partially submerged and vast areas are completely flooded. Roads are cut off. Sewage systems and drinking water supplies are compromised. Parks and sports fields are destroyed. Thousands of residents are left without electricity. And as if all of that weren't enough, the flooding rivers bring something far more dangerous with them: saltwater crocodiles. It's Sunday afternoon, 11:40 a.m., December 21st, 2003. Friends Sean Blowers, Ashley McGowan, both 19 years old, and Brad Bryant, 22, leave their homes. An hour later, they're enjoying the summer heat, riding quad bikes through muddy trails southeast of Kangaroo Flats near Litchfield National Park. They often come to this area, passing through Tumbling Waters Holiday Park and driving along dusty gravel roads surrounded by eucalyptus trees, palm groves, mangroves, and massive termite mounds, until they reach the vast salt flats. It's the perfect place for off-road fun with quad bikes and dirt bikes. And once again, the three friends are having a great weekend, racing their machines and throwing mud at each other. Eventually, they head down to the Finnis River, stopping about 200 meters upstream from Walker Ford. They park their bikes above the riverbank and begin washing their boots and clothes, which are completely covered in sand and mud. They notice the water level is unusually high, but for this time of year, that's normal. What they don't realize is that the river is already full and the tide is still rising. Covered in mud and exhausted by the scorching heat, they decide to cool off and swim in the river near a group of fibrous trees. Brad swims a little farther out and is suddenly caught by the powerful current. Ashley and Sean immediately swim after him. After nearly 300 meters, they reach Brad. The three friends are less than a meter apart. They're strong swimmers. There's no panic. They talk to each other, making sure everyone is okay. Then they begin looking for a safe place to get out of the river. Ashley and Sean swim ahead, with Brad just behind them. That's when Ashley suddenly screams, "Croc! Croc! I'm not joking. There's a crocodile in the water." All three desperately swim toward the nearest tree. Sean never sees the crocodile, but he swims as fast as he can. He reaches a fork in the tree, climbs up, and helps Ashley climb up with him. From the tree, they look back at the river and realize Brad is gone. Worried, they call out his name. There's no response. They crouch down, scanning the water below, hoping he was swept away by the current. But there's no sign of him. The river is completely silent. The only sound is the relentless rush of the current. 2 agonizing minutes pass. Then suddenly, a crocodile surfaces. Brad is clamped in its jaws. His body is face down and completely motionless, the animal's teeth sunk deep into his left shoulder. Ashley and Sean know instantly it's him. They recognize his yellow O'Neill riding gear with black and white stripes. The crocodile slowly swims past, Brad still in its mouth, locking eyes with the two friends in the tree, no more than 5 meters away. After a few seconds, it dives beneath the surface and disappears into the river. That was the last time they ever saw Brad Bryant. Minutes after the terrifying attack, the crocodile returns to the tree where Ashley and Sean are clinging to the branches. It lunges out of the water, snapping its jaws toward them, trying to reach the teenagers. Traumatized and frozen in fear, The two friends can hardly process what they've just witnessed. As Australians, they've always known the dangers posed by flooding rivers. But crocodile attacks like this are rare. They never believed it could happen to them. Darkness begins to fall. With no way to escape, Ashley and Sean spend the entire night in the tree. They fight exhaustion, constantly shifting their weight on the branches, trying not to fall asleep. Sean stays on the second fork of the tree. Ashley clings to the third. At one point, Sean tries to climb higher, loses his balance, and falls into the water. Terrified, he manages to scramble back onto the tree within seconds. As the temperature drops, they decide to stay together on the second fork to keep warm and watch over each other, making sure neither of them falls asleep. They don't speak much. They're in shock, lost in their thoughts, waiting and hoping for rescue at dawn. The night is pitch black. They can't even see each other. Ashley rests his hand on Sean's foot just to know he's still there. From time to time, they check if the other is still awake. Whenever one of them needs to change position, they warn the other first, terrified that a sudden movement could send someone into the water. They are exhausted, but they cling tightly to the tree as it sways under the relentless wind and rain. The boys were supposed to be home by 7:30 that evening. When they don't return, friends and family begin searching for them. Soon they find the abandoned motorcycles. Knowing something is terribly wrong, authorities are called, and search operations begin early the next morning. The rescue is extremely difficult. The terrain is rough. Floodwaters are everywhere. The weather remains unforgiving. Around 10 a.m., Ashley and Sean hear the voices of their families shouting from a distance, accompanied by police officers. Sean yells back, explaining what happened and warning them not to enter the water. They can still see the crocodile that morning. According to them, it's massive. Moss green, almost black, and extremely aggressive. A family friend speaks to the boys. They can't see him, but they can hear his voice. Normally, this stretch of the river is only about 10 meters wide. Now, due to the flooding, it stretches for kilometers, and the water level is still rising. Swimming back to shore is out of the question. The storm continues. The boys are soaked, terrified, and close to hypothermia. Eventually, rescue teams manage to reach them using an inflatable rubber boat. They know the risks. If the crocodile attacks the boat, no one is safe. But they focus on getting the boys out alive. The sound of a helicopter circling overhead scares the crocodile away. It disappears, and is never seen again. Despite days of searching under horrific weather conditions, authorities never find Brad Bryant's body. A week later, a park ranger shoots a 4-meter-long crocodile not far from where Brad was taken. The animal sinks beneath the water, seemingly dead, but its body never resurfaces. To this day, no one can be certain if it was the same crocodile. Its stomach contents were never examined. Since the ban on crocodile hunting, their population has exploded, from around 3,000 to nearly 70,000 crocodiles in northern Australia alone. Attacks increase year after year. Yet, in a dark paradox, these animals continue to attract tourists, perhaps because of the fear and fascination they inspire. So what do you think? Was this tragedy caused by recklessness? Or was it simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. In this episode, we travel to an American state so vast and diverse it feels like a country of its own, where everything is bigger, the food portions, the pickup trucks, and even the cowboy hats. This is Texas, a state larger than Germany, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Belgium, and the Netherlands combined. Home to one of the most iconic rural cultures in the United States, and to a wild ecosystem that shelters more than 1.3 million alligators. It is here that the tragic incident involving Tom Edward took place, the story we're about to tell. Tom was born and raised in a town called Pacific on the outskirts of Missouri City, Texas. Alongside his twin brother, Brian, and his older sister, Tabitha, he had a difficult childhood. The siblings were separated at times and endured years of financial hardship, lacking basic resources. These struggles forged a powerful bond between Tom and his twin brother. Tom was known for his fast talk, natural charm, and magnetic personality. At one point in his life, he joined a traveling carnival, touring for several months before returning home. Back in Pacific, he worked with his father remodeling Sonic drive-in restaurants, a job that lasted for a while before the business ended. After that, Tome took on various odd jobs just to survive. Despite his efforts, making ends meet was a constant struggle. In his early 20s, Tome received a life-changing phone call. His twin brother Brian was living in Orange, Texas, with his wife and young son. Knowing how difficult Tome's life had become, Brian offered him a job, and more importantly, a place to stay. He told his brother he wouldn't need to worry about housing and was welcome to stay as long as necessary. With no future left in Pacific, Tome accepted the offer. He packed his bags and moved to Orange, searching for a fresh start. For the first time in years, things began to look up. Tome lived with his brother and family, worked hard, and slowly rebuilt his life. He eventually got his own place, close to Brian, his sister Tabitha, and their mother Kelly, to whom Tome was especially close. Even late at night, sometimes drunk, he would call her just to say hello and ask how she was doing. Although Tome and Brian drank heavily at times, both were known as extremely hard workers. They were well liked by almost everyone who knew them. Tome, in particular, had a natural charisma and an outgoing spirit. He loved spending time with friends at the local marina in Bridge City. Life had never felt better. Tome was 28 years old. He frequently visited a marina bar called Banana Bay. Though he drank heavily, people knew him as a happy, playful drunk, someone who just wanted everyone around him to smile and have a good time. On the night of July 2, 2015, Tome was enjoying another typical late night at the marina bar. He drank beer, played pool with friends and locals, and did what he did best, celebrating life and friendship. Around 2 a.m., Tome made a decision that would change everything. He decided to go swimming. Together with a friend named Victoria, Tome walked toward the dark waters of the lake near the marina. What he didn't know, or chose to ignore, was that danger had already been lurking there for weeks. Just a few weeks earlier, a local construction worker reported seeing a massive alligator in the lake. While alligators are common in the area, one of this size was cause for serious concern. Animals that grow this large tend to be highly intelligent. In terms of natural selection, reaching such size means they've outcompeted others and survived. It was believed this alligator had lost its natural fear of humans. Visitors to the marina often fed it. Its face was covered in scars. Its appearance was terrifying, as if it had come straight out of a horror movie. The marina owner had seen the same alligator and placed a warning sign near the water. That night, a staff member named Michelle White once again warned Tome not to enter the lake, reminding him of the massive alligator frequently seen there. Tome ignored the warning. Victoria noticed movement in the water. Smaller alligators retreated, but the massive one remained still, watching, waiting. It lifted its head above the surface and began moving silently, the unmistakable behavior of a predator on the hunt. Clearly intoxicated and dangerously confident, Tome prepared to jump. He shouted, "To hell with the alligators," and leapt into the water. He began swimming toward a small island on the opposite side of the lake. Suddenly, something grabbed him and dragged him beneath the surface. Moments later, Tome resurfaces. Victoria watches in horror. Standing at the edge of the lake, she instinctively moves toward the water to help him, but Tome screams at her not to come any closer. Terrified, Victoria turns and runs back to the marina bar. She alerts the bartender, Michelle White, who immediately calls emergency services while grabbing a flashlight to search the dark water. Minutes later, they spot Tome. His body is floating face down near the dock, completely motionless. Suddenly, the alligator lunges again, violently dragging Tome beneath the surface for the final time. His life ends there, in a matter of minutes. He was only 28 years old. 2 hours after the attack, Tome's body is recovered from the lake. His twin brother Brian is present, devastated beyond words. Tome's left arm has been torn off near the elbow, a clear sign of the alligator's lethal technique. The animal had grabbed him, drowned him, and performed the infamous death roll, a maneuver used to rip limbs apart before feeding. Local wildlife officers launch a hunt for the alligator. For 72 hours, they search relentlessly, but fail to capture it. Eventually, a construction worker sets multiple traps around the lake. Within 24 hours, the massive alligator is caught. Overcome with emotion, the man fires 7 shots into the animal's head. He later says the alligator had a truly evil appearance. Soon after, doubt sets in. Did they kill the right animal? The man had no license to kill an alligator, a serious offense that could lead to legal trouble. But following a necropsy, human remains are found inside the animal's stomach. There is no longer any doubt. It was the alligator that killed Tom Edward. Because he cooperated fully with authorities and was honest about the circumstances, officials decide not to press charges. Still, the media coverage adds another layer of pain. Journalists portray Tom as a reckless alcoholic, as if his death were deserved. This deeply wounds a family already shattered by loss. The tragedy marks a grim milestone, the first recorded fatal alligator attack in Texas in 176 years. The marina owner, born and raised in Orange, Texas, says he is still in shock. He had owned the marina for more than half his life, after it was destroyed by Hurricane Ike in 2008 and later rebuilt as a family-friendly location. "I've lived here my entire life," he says, "and this is the first time something like this has ever happened." If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly means everything to us. This is New Orleans, one of the most populous cities in Louisiana, a land of legendary American swamps covered in cypress trees and thick, muddy banks. You've probably seen this place before, in horror and mystery films shot among these waters. The ecosystem is deeply unsettling. Stagnant water stretches in every direction. Massive trees rise from beneath the surface. There's a constant feeling that you could slip, get lost, and never be found. Or that something might rise from the water at any moment. The still water looks like a green carpet of floating leaves, slowly parting as a boat glides through. It's eerily silent. This is the home of thousands of feared relatives of crocodiles, the American alligators. Armed with 82 teeth, their bite force can reach up to 4,000 pounds per square inch. For years, residents lived alongside them peacefully, until Hurricane Ida changed everything. After Hurricane Katrina, Ida became the most destructive hurricane to ever hit Louisiana. Entire coastal communities were devastated. Power grids collapsed. Some areas were left without electricity for weeks. And as floodwaters surged into the city, they brought something else with them: dangerous wildlife. Alligators began appearing in streets, drains, schools, and backyards. People who thought the danger had passed now had to watch every step, or risk being devoured on their own property. This is the story of Timothy Satterling. Timothy Satterling was a 71-year-old man, known by everyone as kind, generous, and deeply devoted to his family. He was the type of person who always tried to help those in need. During natural disasters, Timothy often volunteered as a cook, providing food to people who had lost access to basic supplies. He was considered one of the pillars of his community. He had survived Hurricane Katrina. He had survived Hurricane Ida. But what followed, he did not survive. It's Monday morning, August 30th, 2021. Timothy is at home with his wife, repairing the damage caused by Hurricane Ida the day before. Their house sits in a swampy region. Directly behind it lies the Big Branch Marsh National Wildlife Refuge, 18,000 acres of wild wetlands, home to thousands of alligators. This refuge is one of the main sources of floodwater that invades the city during major storms. Normally, this wouldn't be a problem. Timothy's house is built on stilts, a common design in the area, specifically meant to withstand flooding. At some point that morning, Timothy steps outside toward a shed behind the house, near a flooded lagoon. Moments later, his wife hears a loud splash. She assumes he slipped and fell into the water. She rushes outside. From a distance, she witnesses something unimaginable. An enormous alligator is attacking her husband. The animal is performing the death roll, twisting violently in the water to tear his body apart. Frozen in terror, she turns and runs back inside. desperately searching for anything that could help her fight the animal. When she returns, Timothy's arm is gone. He is still alive, agonizing in the water, in complete shock. Her phone doesn't work. There is no electricity. Floodwaters have destroyed communication lines throughout the area. Timothy is losing consciousness from massive blood loss. The alligator seems satisfied, at least for the moment, and disappears beneath the water, taking the severed arm with it. His wife pulls Timothy from the lagoon and drags him onto the steps of the house. His body begins to fail. With no other options, she makes an impossible decision. She grabs a small boat and paddles away, searching for help. After traveling nearly 1 kilometer, she reaches higher ground and finally gets a signal on her phone. She immediately calls the sheriff's office and reports the attack. She returns home and waits for authorities. When officers arrive, Timothy is gone. Only bloodstains remain on the steps. His body has vanished. At first, police question the wife's account, but an investigation is opened and an extensive search begins, both for Timothy and for the alligator responsible for the attack. For 6 hours, officers search the surrounding area using airboats, canoes, and helicopters. They find nothing. Neighbors report that large alligators are common in the area. Some residents even feed them meat. The county sheriff issues a warning, urging residents to be extremely cautious while walking through flooded areas. Wildlife had been displaced by the storm. Alligators and other dangerous animals could be far closer than expected. High water levels and strong currents severely hampered the search. State and federal agencies joined the operation. Captain Lance Vitter, one of the officials leading the search, states, "The body is one of the most important, if not the most important, elements of a death investigation. Without a body, we cannot officially declare this man deceased. We will not stop until we find him." 2 weeks later, on September 13th, a breakthrough occurs. On September 13th, after 2 weeks of relentless searching, officers from the Special Operations Division, along with state wildlife agents, finally capture a large alligator near the area where Timothy disappeared. The animal measures over 3.6 meters in length and weighs approximately 225 kilograms. A necropsy is performed. Inside the alligator's stomach, investigators find hair, skin, and other human remains, along with materials from Timothy's property. The biological material is severely degraded after days inside the animal, making analysis extremely difficult. Despite the condition, the parish coroner, Dr. Charles Preston, and his team do everything possible. Using advanced DNA technology, they obtain an 11-point match with Timothy's children. They also examine evidence of previous surgeries, including a repaired rotator cuff, and compare dental records. Dr. Preston states, "I am comfortable saying that the remains belong to Mr. Satterling." The sheriff later releases a public statement. "This is a horrific tragedy. My deepest condolences go out to the Satterling family. I am incredibly proud of the tireless work of our officers and partner agencies. I hope that bringing this alligator to justice offers the family some measure of closure." A fundraising campaign is launched on social media to support Timothy's wife. The page explains that she has been unfairly criticized for not doing more during the attack. In reality, she feared for both her husband's life and her own. The alligator could have turned on her at any moment. In a moment of sheer panic, she did the only thing she could do. This tragedy becomes a grim reminder of how fragile the balance truly is between humans and the wild. It's December 7th, 2010. Hendry Coetzee arrives at the Lukanga River, accompanied by 2 friends. He is leading an expedition down some of the most dangerous rapids in Africa. But this journey is not only about adventure. There is purpose behind it. Hendry wants to draw global attention to the lack of access to clean drinking water in the region. He lives for moments like this. He always has. Hendry loves Africa with the same intensity that he loves extreme sports. He is the kind of man who experiences life at full throttle, 1 second at a time. He was the first person to run the treacherous grade 6 rapids of the Nile River solo, a feat so dangerous that he repeated it 8 times. To this day, no one else has dared to do it alone. He ran vast stretches of the Congo River, explored raging rivers across Africa, guided expeditions in 10 different countries. He qualified as a whitewater guide on the Zambezi River in 1997 and trained as a medic with South Africa's Special Forces. He had been chased by cannibal tribes, slept along dangerous riverbanks with nothing but a tent between him and the night. These experiences earned him a reputation, a man with more courage than caution. And yet his achievements brought him fame, which he used to shine a light on Africa's social and humanitarian crises. The Lukanga River flows along the edge of the Katanga Plateau, cutting through savannas and farmland. Its size matches its biodiversity. The locals who live along its banks avoid the water. They know what lies beneath the surface. Stories of people being dragged under, boats being attacked. The river is home to some of the most aggressive and territorial animals on Earth: hippos and Nile crocodiles. Nile crocodiles are the largest reptiles alive today. They can grow over 6 meters long and weigh more than 900 kilograms. Decades of civil war have claimed millions of lives. Many bodies were dumped into rivers, feeding these predators. Over time, the crocodiles lost any hesitation toward human flesh. Together, nature and danger create a breathtaking, sometimes literally suffocating landscape. This is the setting for our next story. It has been raining for 2 straight days, but on the morning of departure, the weather finally gives them a brief window of calm. Hendry Coetzee begins the first stage of the expedition alongside his paddling partners, Ben Stokesbury and Chris Corbulak, both experienced canoeists accustomed to violent, life-threatening waters. What they are not used to is the idea of something alive beneath the surface, something capable of swallowing them whole. The first section of the journey is the most turbulent. Many consider it completely unnavigable. But these men are experts. They follow every safety protocol with precision. Within the first 50 kilometers of rapids, they spot 3 small crocodiles, each about 1 meter long. Despite the unease, everything proceeds as planned. After many kilometers through rolling hills covered in elephant grass, the team completes the first stage without major incident. They then begin the second stage, a 250-kilometer stretch of calm, flat water before the river eventually merges into a larger system. The paddlers had been warned. Crocodile encounters are far more common in slow-moving, flat waters. Trying to lighten the mood, they joke that they are now entering the crocodile's restaurant, and that they themselves are on the menu. They change formation, paddling in a straight line, one behind the other. Stokesbury leads. Hendry follows closely behind. Thick mats of floating elephant grass cover the water. The men focus on maneuvering around them. Nothing in that moment could have warned them of the horror about to unfold. Suddenly, Hendry shouts, "Oh my God, crocodile!" Stokesbury turns just in time to see an enormous crocodile launch itself toward Hendry, jaws wide open. Hendry's canoe flips instantly. It is pulled completely underwater, shaking violently for several agonizing seconds. Those seconds are likely the moments Hendry is fighting for his life, as the crocodile drags him from the tight cockpit of the boat. Then, silence. Minutes pass. There is no sign of Hendry. His partners know there is nothing they can do. Their only chance is to paddle as fast as possible toward a nearby village about 1 kilometer downstream to get help. As they reach the village and explain what happened, Hendry's canoe floats past, carried by the current. They rush after it, desperately hoping to find something. But the canoe is intact. No damage, not a single scratch. There is no life jacket, no debris, no blood. They attempt to organize a search party, but the local villagers are firm in their refusal. They tell them the crocodile that attacked Hendry is likely the same one responsible for killing several members of the community. According to them, the animal is nearly 6 meters long. After intense pleading and the promise of a reward, a small group agrees to search. They find nothing, not even fragments of foam, not even a torn life vest. Hendry Coetzee's body is never recovered. The following day, he is officially declared dead. Later, Stokesbury recalls something chilling. Just days before the expedition, Hendry had written in his blog about a strange feeling. A sense of unease he couldn't explain. In one entry, dated November 26th, he wrote, "As I licked my dry lips and carefully checked that everything was in working order, I had the feeling that I might be doing something I shouldn't. I pushed the doubt aside, and when I finally reached the bottom of the rapid, I was glad I had done it. In the end, it was probably just paranoia." In another post, Hendry wrote, "If safety were all I wanted, I would have stayed home." Deep down, Hendry knew his lifestyle was pulling him closer and closer to an early death. But his desire to live every day as if it were his last was stronger. He was only truly happy when pushing past his limits, and often felt a deep emptiness once each challenge was over. Ironically, Hendry had warned other paddlers to avoid whirlpools, not because of crocodiles, but because of hippos lurking beneath the surface. He had also advised them to stay away from riverbanks where crocodiles sunbathe. Chris Korbelak later said the entire journey leading up to the attack had been enlightening, and that he hoped to paddle again someday, just never in the waters of the Lukanga. Out of respect, Stokesbury added that the International Rescue Committee handled the evacuation efficiently, providing paperwork, satellite phones, and support to leave the region safely. Hendry had a girlfriend he planned to marry. She was waiting for him. This was supposed to be his final adventure. In a way, he was right. Crocodiles are often considered natural man-eaters, unlike lions and tigers, which usually attack humans only when injured or too old to hunt properly, or sharks, which many experts say do not view humans as prey. For crocodiles, hunger is enough. They have no specific prey. They are opportunistic apex predators, capable of killing and consuming anything, large or small, lean or fat. Crocodiles kill hundreds, perhaps thousands, of people every year. Contrary to popular belief, victims of Nile crocodile attacks rarely drown. The bite force of this species is among the strongest ever recorded, reaching up to 2,200 kilograms of pressure. Victims are typically bitten in the torso, their organs crushed instantly, often dying before they ever submerge. Many attacks go unreported, but those that reach the public serve as a brutal reminder. These Jurassic predators are still very much among us. While the African tourism industry often tries to present a sense of safety, locals tell a very different story. People disappear here, quietly, and often without explanation. Whether you are in a boat, a canoe, standing in the water, or simply washing clothes along the riverbank, you are never truly safe. In our next story, you will learn about one of the most notorious crocodile attacks ever recorded in Africa. A man dragged from his boat and consumed in seconds. We are now in Botswana, a country just north of South Africa, located in the heart of the continent. It is considered one of the most beautiful countries in the world, with nearly 40% of its land preserved as national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Botswana is also known for having one of the highest HIV prevalence rates in the world, which has drawn many foreign doctors and scientists to help combat the epidemic. Dr. Richard Root was one of them. Dr. Richard Root was a respected American epidemiologist and medical educator. He graduated from medical school in 1963 and became chief resident in 1968 at the University of Washington. He later taught at Yale University School of Medicine and was named Professor of the Year in 1982. In 1991, Richard returned to Seattle as Chief of Medical Services at Harborview and Vice Chair of the Department of Medicine. In his later years, he continued teaching residents and medical students at Providence Medical Center. Internationally recognized for his work in biology and infectious diseases, Richard was admired not only for his clinical skill, but for his compassion as a physician and teacher. In 2001, Richard lost his first wife to a neuromuscular disease. He spent 2 years caring for her until her death. The loss plunged him into deep grief. Africa brought him peace. In 2004, he met Rita Boyle, a widow who had also recently lost her spouse. They married that same year. In 2006, Richard was invited by the University of Pennsylvania's Department of Infectious Diseases to assist with an HIV prevention project in Botswana. In March, he and Rita moved to the country. a moment Richard had been anticipating for a long time. He loved Africa's sunsets and dramatic landscapes as much as he loved caring for patients in remote hospitals. He formed friendships that would last a lifetime. On the morning of March 16, 2006, Richard felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace, fulfillment, and joy. He had overcome enormous hardships and was exactly where he felt he belonged. The following day, March 17th, Richard and Rita traveled to a rural clinic serving the village near the Tule Nature Reserve, a remote area known for its dramatic scenery and abundant wildlife. Elephants roam freely here, alongside impalas, wildebeest, lions, and leopards, as well as more than 350 species of birds. After 2 days of medical work, the couple decided to take a peaceful canoe trip on the Limpopo River, accompanied by a friend named Harvey Freeman. Richard was uneasy. He knew the stories. He had treated crocodile attack victims before, but the local guides reassured them there had never been a recorded crocodile attack in that exact stretch of the river. They only warned the group to stay alert for hippos. Richard allowed himself to relax. He focused on the beauty around him. They paddled slowly along the majestic Limpopo, laughing and sharing stories. Richard and the guide were in one canoe. Rita followed in another, about 20 meters behind. Without warning, a crocodile erupted from the calm water. In a fraction of a second, it clamped its jaws onto Richard's torso, ripping him from his seat and dragging him beneath the surface. Rita and the guides froze in horror. The peaceful afternoon instantly turned into another tragedy, one that would be etched into the history of the region. The prehistoric predator vanished into the depths of the river, never to be seen again. Days later, Richard's life jacket and fragments of his remains were found downstream. Authorities believe the rest of his body was completely consumed. Guides estimated the crocodile measured over 4.5 meters in length. The attack was so fast and precise that the animal never even touched the canoe. Dr. Richard Root was a man who dedicated his life to helping others. He was not only a world-class physician, but a pillar of the medical community, in the United States and in Africa. His death was mourned by countless colleagues, patients, and friends. He is survived by his wife Rita, his son David, his sons Richard and Daniel, and his daughters Becky, Ring, and Anna. It is 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, June 1st, 2022, and a man is walking his dog in a park. As he passes by the lagoon, he sees what appears to be a human torso floating in the water and quickly calls emergency services. Police soon arrive at the scene, and the body is identified as belonging to Xanthomas Maginis Chan. Chan is a man who has been living as a guest for 8 years in the basement of his best friend Ryan Needy's house. He recently discovered serious health problems. Magnus was diagnosed with a malignant tumor in the pituitary gland and epilepsy with seizures, which would shorten his life anyway. The man has no health insurance, no family in the state, and is facing financial problems, and his illness begins to become a major burden for his friend's family as well. Ryan gently asks that Magnus leave the house as soon as possible. At that time, Thomas resolves his financial problems by entering a lake near a golf course. The location is used by people who practice the sport, and for this reason, at the bottom of the lake there are many discs that were thrown incorrectly. He manages to resell them for about $5 to $10 each, and in a short time, finds dozens at the bottom of the lake, which gives him an income of about $150 to $200 per day. The only problem is that the lake is home to countless hungry alligators. Thomas's numerous problems cause him to dive deeper and deeper into the lake in search of frisbees. In the second week of May 2022, a park visitor named Derek Ursing, 37 years old, was walking through the park when he saw a man wading under the water searching for frisbees. The man took a photo of him and approached to ask if he knew how dangerous what he was doing was. Calm and fully aware, he answered yes, but said he needed to do it, and continued searching. This was one of the last discs he tried to retrieve. "I hope he is at peace now with the Lord, and that is the best we can wish for," said park visitor Derek. Through a public records request, the newspaper Spectrum Bay News obtained communication reports from the Largo police showing that a park ranger tried to stop Magnus from entering the park lake on April 11th. Magnus was seen entering the water around noon and was warned not to do so, the report stated, noting that he did not pay attention to the warning. A few days later, on April 19th, Magnus was seen at Taylor Park in the early morning hours diving in search of discs, and a park ranger called the police to apprehend him. During both incidents, when officers arrived at the park, they were unable to locate him. He managed to evade the police by entering the lake in the darkness of the night or at dawn shortly before sunrise, the same time when alligators are most active searching for food. Despite being animals that slip through the waters of our consciousness, awakening fear and terror with their sinister appearance in the hearts of most people, Magnus did not seem to fear them. His friend Ryan said he believed that Magnus's financial needs combined with his illness were the reasons the man seemed not to care about the presence of alligators while diving in the lake. In fact, he seemed comfortable doing it. On his last day, Zentomus wakes up before dawn and goes to the park as usual, sneaking in so that the guards would not notice. He lowers his hands and begins dragging his feet along the bottom of the lake searching for discs. The early morning is cold and silent. Nothing can be heard except crickets and the sound of chains dragging through the water. City lights illuminate some parts of the park, but the lagoon is completely dark. As Breno continues using the touch of his hands to find discs, he throws the ones he finds onto the shore. A few minutes pass and the water is already at chest height. He acts quickly to collect as many discs as possible before sunlight appears. He is alone, defenseless, and dangerously close to the deepest part of the lake. In this situation, even medium-sized alligators can easily drown him. At that moment, an alligator emerges, clamps its jaws onto Chan's thighs, and performs the death roll, tearing off one of his legs in the most horrific way imaginable. Adrenaline and shock prevent him from losing consciousness. He gathers strength to continue fighting for his life. The activity in the water draws the attention of more alligators. At this point, more animals likely join in for a feast on Zentomus's body, and the attack turns into a feeding frenzy. The predators mercilessly bite his body and limbs, tearing him apart into pieces until finally parts of his body satisfy the animals, who leave Chan's torso floating in the lake, surrounded by a sinister crimson cloud. Despite multiple attempts by park guards to prohibit Chan from entering the park, he decided to continue evading authorities while the park was still closed. At 8 a.m. that same day, his torso is found without arms and without one of the legs, clearly devoured by the animals. His disfigured face made identification difficult, and only the following day were authorities able to confirm that the body was Chan's through dental records. This was the first alligator attack since 2019, and news of his tragic death spread across the entire country. Subsequent police investigations questioned the lack of security in the park, despite a previous incident in 2020 in which a man was bitten by alligators while also trying to recover lost items from the lake. Licensed hunters from Florida Fish and Wildlife began searches to locate animals that posed a risk to the population, and 2 alligators measuring about 3 meters were removed from the lake near where Chan was attacked. After an investigation, tissue and bone fragments were found in their stomachs, but the conclusion was that they were not involved in Magnus's death. This did not involve the killing of the animals, and they were transported to a sanctuary. Authorities continued investigating but did not capture any additional alligators in the lake. Reptile behavior researchers stated that this brutal death was also a consequence of the animals' mating season, which means they become more vigilant and aggressive. The fact that Chan entered the water at night also contributed to the attack, since during these hours the animals are more active. Chan's roommate expressed immense sadness and remorse for having asked his friend to leave and cannot stop feeling some guilt over what happened. He said Chan had a good heart, and that he certainly would not want the animals to be killed because of him. Park administrators closed the park for several days and reinforced security around the lake to prevent people from entering in search of frisbee discs. At Chan's burial, there was no one present other than a few acquaintances who knew that he had no family in Florida and had not been in contact with relatives for years. The incident shocked the entire local community, which began strictly following park regulations and all safety rules around the lake, fearing they could be the next victims of these terrible and cruel predators. In your opinion, what made Chan dive into the lake so carelessly? Financial necessity? Or perhaps he was already depressed and in some way unconsciously looking to put an end to it all? If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for staying with me until the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then.